The BBC won't sell me the Generation Game. They want to totally erase me.
They're rubbing you out, Jim.
Tash, how long is it before I'm dribbling, pissing me trousers and shitting myself? In about 20 minutes by the look of you.
It's a little bit chalky.
But because them talk like that, you know, right. I had a couple of pints of lager and a couple of nostrils full of amphetamine sulfate. On I went. But even I said, you should go on that programme New Faces. Lenny Henry won it. I thought, well, that's got to be fucking easy to win then. Went to the little phone box, phoned her up and said, Mum, I've won New Faces and you're never going to have to work again as long as you live. She's lazy, man. Political correctness started in America, didn't it? Well, we can't say this and we must say that. I don't get it. You're a man or a woman or you're mentally fucking ill, mate. Oh, my son, he's got ADHD. I'm DGAF. Don't give a f***. Understand a man wanting to be a woman. Working all your life, Tel. Me and Lionel Blair planned the kidnap of Ronnie Biggs. Have you ever heard anything so fucking ridiculous? They were called victims straight away. And I said to the policewoman that they're victims. And he put me in the cell and said, Jim, yours were all old slappers.
Guilty on that.
Yeah, I did it.
Welcome back to the Criminal Connection podcast, and this episode is proudly brought to you by Betovo.
Welcome back to the Criminal Connection podcast. My name's Terry Stone, and today we are joined by the king of comedy. His name is Jim Davidson. So please put your hands together. We got Jim in the house.
Yes.
Woo!
Yes. All right, Tel, how are you?
I'm good.
Now, I've seen a bit of your stuff, so I've prepared some questions for you to ask, and don't fucking deviate from them, all right?
I'm such a diva, Jim. I thought we was going to have a friendly chat. No, it's really good to see you, mate. Thank you so much for coming.
Eventually, I'm sorry I couldn't come last time. I had a real bust up with Tash. It was the perfect storm, you know. She drew on and me pissed. Then her pissed and me drew on.
Right.
Nightmare. Can't wait for her to be postmenopausal. I'll be 90 by then,
Right,
but,
okay.
you know, at least we'll get on a bit.
You probably won't know what's going on anyway.
I don't fucking know what's going on anyway.
But Jim, I'm so honoured to have you on the show, partly because you were a massive part of my childhood. I've always loved all the, characters you played. I mean, you had your own show. You did the Generation Game. I mean, I obviously first met you on Tiswas and with Bungle in Rainbow. What was he like, Bungle? Was he one of the boys or?
No, I'm not sure. I think Bungle might have been gay. I'm not sure. I don't think he got a lot in that suit.
Right.
Rainbow was always on in Studio 3. They had their own little studio down at Thames Television. And when they were doing their dress rehearsal or their technical run-through, it was always packed with all of us when we were working there because they did it filthy, you know. And I just thought it was great. And the bloke who did Zippy also did George's voice. His name was Roy Skelton.
I didn't know that.
He did the two. Yeah, he did the two. Someone else did the funny stuff. And he did the voice. And it turned out he was the first Dalek.
Wow.
And if you listen to Zippy, you know, I don't know what's happening, George, and if you keep on, you will be exterminated. It is. You can see the transition, can't you? I ain't doing that again. I'm not doing that again.
Yeah. But it was a great time. And obviously back then, I mean, the innuendos on that show was so funny. It was like the Magic Roundabout, Rainbow, and like we're watching it now and we're going, how the fuck did they get away with that?
I'd love to be able to buy it. I'm getting a lot of resistance, so we're buying stuff for Yewtree TV. And first of all, the BBC won't sell me the Generation Game or Big Break or anything I've been on. They want to totally erase me. It's like Pol Pot in, Cambodia.
They're rubbing you out, Jim.
They're rubbing me out. And then to try and buy stuff, people do not want to sell stuff. They all want to sit on it. And so, we're going to have to make new stuff, do things like what you're doing here and there. But they were the great days. Thames Television, me, the Jim Davidson show with guest stars that I'd never dream of meeting. It was fantastic. And then Zippy and George.
Yeah. I mean, if we sort of like rewind to you as a kid growing up, where was you sort of born and grew up?
118 Holborn Road, Kidbrooke, London, SE3. Down near the ferry area. Ferry estate weren't built then. So we had a street with council houses, semi-detached council houses. We had a back garden. We had a dump. We called it the field, but it was a dump where you could go and play. You could play football in the streets. It was wonderful, great times. You had trees, a front garden, white dog shit. You remember that?
Yeah, what's happened to that?
I don't know.
Do you think Keir Starmer's outlawed it?
Yeah, I know. It's outnumbered by Brown.
And when would you say you had your calling for entertainment? Because did you sort of wake up, as a kid, was you always the funny guy?
Yeah. So I was the last one of 5, and there's a 10-year gap between me and my elder brother, John, who's now gone. But so I was a bit of a show-off. I was a bit of a mummy. She had me late in life.
Right.
Dad was a jock, Glaswegian soldier, real hard-drinking, jack-of-all-trades guy. Mum used to go to bingo. Mum tried her best.
Right.
And I used to walk down to school. I went to school in Charlton. That was it. Got a job in the co-op when I left school. I left school at 15. But before that, Mum used to go down to Cornwall with my sister and her husband in their Ford Consul, and go camping. Dad wouldn't go. He didn't like it. So me and him used to go camping up the Norfolk Broads and go fishing.
Right.
And we were in a pub in Potterheim, and he started speaking to some blokes that he liked to drink. And they had a boat. Well, we thought they were millionaires. They had a boat. We got a little fucking tent about the size of an umbrella. and they asked Dad back for a drink. And, of course, being a Scotsman, back he went. He said, "Got any whiskey?" Took me back with him, and after a couple of drinks, he started selling me to show off, doing me jokes and that. And these guys said, "Have you ever considered, are you in the Boy Scouts?" I said, "Yeah." "Have you ever considered being in the Gang Show?" Which was a Boy Scout-led variety show, once a year on the television, but it did a 2-week run at Golders Green. And I said, yeah. So they arranged, listen to this, an audition for me at the London Palladium in front of Ralph Reeder.
Wow.
And my mum and dad took me. I still got a photo in one of my houses somewhere, one of my ex-houses.
Right.
And that was it. Mum and dad took me. I went and did the Gang Show.
Right.
Then I got an audition for the film Oliver to play the Artful Dodger. I didn't get that. Jack Wilde got it, who I thought was brilliant. And then that was it. I decided, fuck this. I'm not doing show business anymore. I left the Scouts, started smoking, seeing young girls. I ended up playing drums in a pub when I was 13. Yeah.
See, who would have thought that you would have been in the boy band playing the drums, Jim? You know what I mean?
No, it weren't a boy band. It was a geezer on the piano with a welky eye. And the reason he had a welky eye, because he had a roll up in his mouth permanently alight, and it was under that eye.
Right.
It never come out of his mouth. He could drink a pint. He'd move it over that side and drink like that. And he'd play the piano. It's terrible. And that was it. All I ever learned to play was this. Gonna sit right down, I write myself a letter. It was great fun. I was only a kid.
And I suppose at 13, I mean, it's better than doing a paper round, right? I mean, It
is better than doing it. The only reason we did a paper round, so when the bloke turned his back, we nick all the fags off. I did a milk round with Bob the milkman. I used to I couldn't wait to grow up.
Right.
Mum and Dad used to argue a bit. He drank and she was a bear poker. So my brother fucked off, joined the Navy. My sister went and lived in America with a guy she met. It was a bit like that. We loved them, but we just wanted to get away. I got married at 17. Fucking idiot.
Right. How many times have you been married, Jim?
5 now.
Wow.
Yeah. Soon to be 6, as long as we don't have another argument.
do you know something? I've been very lucky that I've been with my wife for sort of 26 years, but I know so many of my mates who've had to go through it, and it's painful, isn't it?
You end up with no money. I've got no money now.
Right.
So the last divorce, we sold the house, and that's it. She got the lion's share of that. I got fuck all, spent it, and I've got nothing now. So I'm 71 years of age. I earn a lot of money, but I have to live hand to mouth. So Tash and I plan in the future. I've got to make sure I can get enough in a nest egg to look after her. She's 48 years of age. I'm 71. There's no real value in having me, is there? Because, I could fucking drop dead. I said to her the other night in Southend, this is what started it, I think.
Right.
So I said, you've got to work out, Tash, how long is it before I'm dribbling, pissing me trousers and shitting myself? She said, in about 20 minutes by the look of you. That's how the fight started, Your Honour.
But I mean, that's a good opening line. At least she really does want to marry you for you.
No. I always never think that, though.
Right.
I always think, why me? I always think, I never look at me as a sort of a bargain. I always think they're fucking with me for something else.
Jim, I just want to put it out there, I'm not chatting you up, right?
No, that's all right,
but
mate.
You do look
you're
in incredible nick for 71. You got your hair, you got your teeth.
Yeah, they're new teeth.
Are they?
Yeah, I didn't get them in Turkey, though. I got them in London, 25 grand.
Wow.
But that was because they wanted to make them look, they're whiter than the old ones.
They don't look like you've been to Turkey. I was going to say that. I thought they were your original teeth.
No. I've had the. That's Tash again. Have that done. She threw all my suits away. I can't wear anything green, orange, or brown.
So what's the look that she's going for? She wants you to be. Is it a sort of
sharp?
Right.
You haven't shaved this morning.
Right.
I ain't going anywhere. You should shave. You look sharp. get your hair different. That's how, she's a bit of a control freak.
That's good, though, isn't it? So, behind every great man, there's a great woman, they say.
Yeah. It's because you've got no fucking option to argue. That's what it is. Well, they say happy wife, happy life.
Yeah. And
she's the one outgrafter from southeast London.
Right.
She's brought up kids on her own, and she has a kid with special needs as well, who's 19. So that's at the same. My ex-wife, Tracy, who met her, and she said to me, "What you got to her?" This is a couple of wives before that, and she said, "You're not the centre of her life, Jim. You've got to get used to that fact that she's got her children, and they will always come first." So I have to really work hard at that. Me being a narcoleptic and being an arsehole. Yeah, you have to come to grips. But it's hard because you've got 1,500 people screaming at you not to leave the stage, and you go home and you're not the centre of the stage anymore.
Right.
So you've got to grow up and take an adult pill. Bit late in life, but what's left for me?
But do you know something, Jim? I was gonna come on to obviously, from obviously playing the drums in the pub and earning a few quid.
Yeah.
When would you say, like you said, you left school, you're working in the co-op.
Yeah.
When did you say you had that calling, or what was the circumstances that led you then going, do you know what, I'm going to go into comedy?
Yeah, well, we used to hang around. All my mates are dead now. Tommy Hayes, Ronnie Lee, Larry, all from Kidbrooke. They lived on that estate where that Stephen Lawrence was murdered.
Yeah.
And I lived on the estate round the corner. I used to go through the alley. And we used to all hang around. We were the kids from around the buildings. And then we ended up, as we started working together, I worked with Larry as a window cleaner. And on Sunday lunchtimes, or a Friday lunchtime, we went to a pub in Woolwich called the Howick. Right. And funny enough, my first wife worked behind the bar, Sue Walpole.
Right.
You've probably met her. Most of the lads have from South East London. She fucked off with a Millwall fan. Can you imagine?
That's a liberty, Jim.
That is a terrible
fucking liberty.
And I miss him to this day. I was 17.
Did you want his address? You sent him thank you.
No, someone bumped into me the other day. He said, "I know your ex-wife. She lives in Spain with the Millwall fan." I said, "Yeah." He said, "You dodged a fucking bullet there, boy." We've done it together 3-4 months. But I had a daughter. She's 52 now, 51, 52. And we get on our house on fire.
How many kids have you got in total?
5.
Wow. So you 5 boys, 5 kids.
Yeah, but I had so me and Sue Walpole, we got married in Woolwich, 1971, I think, at the town hall. I remember being in a cab with my dad, and I said, "What would you do if it was me, Dad?" "Keep the fucking cab going," he said. And that was it. And I played drums that night in the Director General pub opposite the town hall. And then she was 5 months pregnant then, and I was so happy because it means I could grow up and start my own family. I sound like Don Corleone's captain, but I just wanted to get away from it all. And then we had the baby. I was working for Rank Xerox, doing stuff. And then she decided she didn't want me anymore. I was living with her mother, who I fucking hated. and a real Woolwich hard man called Daisy Raven. Right. Yeah, he was a biker, but he was fucking over. All the chaps there all left him alone. Right. He's gone now as well. And so I didn't like it there, so I went back with Mum and Dad. And then the council wrote to her and said, "You can have a council flat in Thamesmead." Right. And so off she went to it, and I went and begged her on my hands and knees to come back. And she said, "Nah," so I just fucked off. That was it. Into the doldrums, paying my £3 a week maintenance for my daughter Sarah. But I got my own back. She left there and went back to her mum's in Woolwich. And I pulled up in my Rolls Royce to take my daughter to school one day.
Did she pull you up? Did she pull you up and say, "You only give me £3 a week? I want to ride."
No, it stopped. She was started living with someone else, and I kept paying and paying and giving more money. And I thought I'll turn up. Now I'm famous and been on the television. Now I'm famous. She must be kicking herself. Couldn't give a fuck. There's nothing to do with fame. Just didn't like me. So I had Sarah there, and then I went and I got married to Julie, and had a son called Cameron, who's now 40. We don't speak. He doesn't speak to the rest of the family. I think he's a great rock singer. He's got a band and he lives in a little flat, not far from me actually, but we don't speak. And I don't push it. He doesn't speak to the rest of the family. He feels he's been dealt a bad hand, so he'll deal with that and come back. Yeah. Then I married Tracy from Wolverhampton, looking great. Tracy from.
Tracy.
I got pissed one night at a do, and I paid 18,000 quid for Robin Smith's cricket jumper with the red of the Test match ball down the front of it, where they do that rubbing that he wore when they beat the West Indies in Barbados.
Wow!
Right, and I went home back to Tracy from Wolverhampton, where we lived in London. And in the morning, I said, "You haven't found a cricket jumper?" She said, "Oh, the fucking job I've had scrubbing that fucking red out of it." So we got divorced and got three children. Charlie's the eldest one. He's a lawyer. He's just done the deal for my new house for me. We've got Fred, who's a sales manager for Skoda now. He's doing really well. They've all got kids. And little Elsie, who's married a rave producer. They produce these shows, in Ibiza and all that. They do all that. So they're all doing really, really well. I'm dead chuffed. What more could you
when you have kids, all you want them to do is crack on, and find their
and
own.
I think you've got to let them crack on in their own way. But they all went to private school. It cost me a fortune. They speak much better than me. They've still got that fire in them, a bit of jock blood in there somewhere, I think. But, looking back, I'm dead chuffed with myself. But it was all, did I really need to leave? I don't know. Maybe. You look back sometimes. I tend not to look back unless someone asks me. But, you're saying you've been with your wife for 20 years. Imagine how much money I'd have now if I was still with Sue Walpole.
I mean, it is, but I think marriages. This is just how I found it. You've got to find someone who can put up with your shit and you can put up with their shit.
Yeah.
And if you can just tolerate each other, it kind of works. But
but I'm very needy.
Right.
I make jokes about it with Tash,
Right.
But her daughter...
You're the only guest that we've had on this show that's bought the questions, Jim.
Yeah, I know. She said to her daughter, I'm going down to see Jim down in the Hamble. She said, will he be sat at the window looking out, waiting for you like a dog? Well, that's what I fucking am. It's stupid.
When did you get your first big break? Before you
I went on stage at the Woolwich. We were going to see this comedian.
Yeah.
He never turned up. So they said, you go on. I said, I ain't fucking going on. Come on, you know Jimmy Jones's jokes.
So he was the man for you, Jimmy Jones.
Jimmy Jones, yeah.
Well,
I used to go and see him down the Montague Arms. He was
so
absolutely
funny.
brilliant. Lovely guy, lovely bloke. He's signed for Yewtree now, funny enough. And it's funny how it all goes round. So I was a bit nervous. So I had a couple of pints of lager and a couple of nostrils full of amphetamine sulfate. And on I went, good evening. And did the show and came off and they said, you're quite good at that.
Right.
And then I got a job I was cleaning the windows of a pub.
Right.
And my mate Larry said to the governor, you should put comedy on it. It's funny enough. I'm looking for a comedian. He said, my mate's one. He said, he's just come to see me. You should put that fucking scrim down and come in. And he told this governor, who was a northerner, that Jim's a comedian. Oh, where have you worked then, son? So I instantly knew I had to bullshit. Oh, the Queen's Head, the King's Legs, the arm, the thing, the that, the what. I just fucking made up pubs because he knew he'd never heard of them. And yeah, all right. So I got a job, £6 Sunday lunchtime, £6. Fucking great. Took me a week to earn that in a co-op. And I went on in Lewisham.
That was back when £6 was a lot of money.
Was a lot of money. Yeah, you could have bought
could have
bought a Lotus Cortina for that.
And that got you on the thing.
Yeah, and then I got they got a call from the Montague Arms in Peckham, the famous Montague Arms where Jimmy Jones was and Mike Kemp. They said, "Will you come along and do that?" I said, "Yeah, £60 a week." I was 20, but they said you got to keep it clean. That fucked me up a bit, but it made me learn more stuff, and then that was it, basically. I went to do the audition for Opportunity Knocks and failed that. Huey Green said, "How long you been doing it, old son?" I said, "About 5 years." I was like fucking 20. And he said, "You go away and practice." I thought, oh, shit. And then my mate Larry, who was window cleaning, he said, "You should go on that programme New Faces. It's a talent show. It's really good." Lenny Henry won it. I thought, well, that's got to be fucking easy to win then. Right. So I went and did that and I won it.
Wow.
So and that was really when I made the famous phone call to my mum. When I phoned her up on the Tuesday night when we recorded it, went to the little phone box, phoned her up and said, "Mum, I've won New Faces and you're never going to have to work again as long as you live." And you know what, Tel? She never did.
That's amazing.
She's a lazy fucker, my mother. But I did take it to bingo in my roller.
Okay. And you said, "There you go, babe, on me."
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And from New Faces, that catapulted you And was the Jim Davidson show literally straight after that, or was that?
No, during March the 9th. No, it was shown March the 13th, 1976. The first New Faces. 2 weeks later, I was on the All Winners show, and I won that and all. And then in July, I lost to Roger de Courcy in the grand final. But between March
Did he have Nookie with him or not?
Yeah, he did. He ain't well, you know. He's been lying in. He's been bedridden for a couple of years.
I didn't know that.
Last time a lot of people do.
I see him at the Chelsea thing because I was and he was there, and I didn't get a chance to really speak to him properly, but he looks okay.
Yeah, Grandpa Grumble. He was always a bit. I got on well with him. Anyway, he deservedly won, but by then I got spotted by Benny Hill. And Benny Hill called this producer at Thames Television in the next office. He said, I know someone that'd be good for this programme you're putting together. So I went along and met this guy called Mark Stewart, a producer, big show busy producer. And I got this part working with, it was sort of like a Rowan and Martin's Laughing. Bill Franklin was the front man. Barry Cryer, John Junkin, Pam Ayres, loads of them. And little me, the little cheeky chappie. Right. That was it. And then the Jim Davidson show, et cetera, et cetera.
I mean, one of the things I wanted to ask you, you're a master of accents and you had so many great characters when you did your show. What would you say for out of the characters you played was the one that would Jim do that when they see you in the street?
It was Chalky. Chalky, I never did a character like that. Harry Enfield, he played the Stavros it's like actors doing it. I was a stand-up comic. And I just used to copy Jimmy Jones and Peter Demmer and do different accents, Pakistanis, Indians, whatever. When I did Pakistani jokes, they thought they were Welsh because my accent's not so good. But all that black stuff, when I went to do summer season up in Blackpool, right. Little and Large's manager said, hey, why don't you make that black accent thing that you do with jokes about a black bloke a person? Right. So that was the birth of Chalky, where Chalky became real. To the fact that people would say, where's Chalky? They still do it. Right. They cheer when you do Chalky.
Wow. Can you give us a little bit of Chalky?
But because them talk like that, right? and it's funny enough, Ian Wright said to me once, we were having a drink, why don't you do Chalky no more? Right. I said, because, listen, mate, no one speaks with a West Indian accent anymore. He said, that's right, we fucked your act up because us black people sound the same as you white people, innit? Right. Yeah, right. Okay, and I laughed so much. I tried to bit me lip because I got so much respect for him.
Right.
But a load of the accents that especially mixed race guys put on.
But what happened to Chalky? Did he get cancelled?
No, not really cancelled. It was really the fact that black people never spoke West Indian accents anymore. Right. So you do a joke with Chalky in it, and only the people that were around in the 70s would laugh.
Right, got it.
And that's not good news for young people. Who's he fucking doing then? What's that accent? Where's that from?
And I suppose comedy's so complicated, and it evolves. And you as a comedian, you obviously have to do sort of move with the times, and some of the things. I mean, I've always enjoyed comedy. But when I've seen this, it's funny, you sort of gravitate towards different comedians. I always thought Eddie Murphy was really funny.
I loved Eddie Murphy.
I thought Jimmy Jones was really funny. I thought you was really funny. There was a Sacha Baron Cohen. There's a few that you go, that guy's funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I used to, my favourite thing makes me laugh the most is Tom and Jerry. Yeah. When Fred Quimby produced them, then someone come along and ruined it, made it a bit woke. And I can sit there. Me and my brother Bill can't watch it together because we have heart attacks and die of laughter. Right. But our wives used to sit there like that. So don't you find that funny? No. If it makes you laugh, don't you?
I mean, Tom and Jerry for me was good. Top Cat was good.
Yeah.
I mean, all these things, I mean, with the way we are now, Jim, obviously with this sort of woke, diversity, equality, inclusion. What do you think of all that? I mean, I know you've got this Yewtree that melts snowflakes, right? Yeah. But do you think that's helped accelerate the snowflakery?
No, I think it's helped accelerate Yewtree because people are fed up of not being able to do or watch or say what they want to do.
You're a massive supporter.
This all come from political correctness. Started in America, didn't it? In California, we can't say this and we must say that, and oh my God, still going on. You can identify as a fox, can't you? If you're a young girl, you can identify. They're thick as shit, young girls, and young people. Young people are so woked up. They're as thick as fucking shit. What's happened to? You're not a fox. Right. Get the fuck Go and dress as a human being.
Do you identify as anything in particular, Jim? Or
I like to identify as Brad Pitt.
right?
Yeah.
I identify as a young self-made billionaire. Not a cat.
We should go out. No. But I had a girlfriend once whose daughter went to a school with a young girl who said she was a cat and they had to put a litter tray in there for her and everything. It's crazy.
I mean, it's important though, because otherwise she's got nowhere to go to the toilet.
No, she can't lay a cable, can she? She has to keep climbing up a tree.
And obviously, with all this stuff, you've also got the pronouns now, haven't you? I mean, people.
I don't get it. You're a man or a woman, or you're mentally fucking ill, mate.
Is that what you say on Yewtree? Is that your sort of catchphrase?
Well, I can understand a man wanting to be a woman. Working all your life, Tel. But that's it. You're a man or a woman. These two people, it's mental illness.
Right.
And it's okay to be mentally ill now because everyone's got letters after their names, haven't they? They just take to people, your son's a bit, he's got DCFC. Oh, no, it's like a badge. Oh, my son, he's got ADHD, he's got GBH, he's got CAFC, he's got, for fuck's sake, Mum, you're just a horrible little shit.
Well, my wife says that I'm on the spectrum. So we probably all are a little bit.
I don't get that. There's dyslexia. No, there's no dyslexia. You're too stupid to learn how to read. That's what it is. Never mind green eye, blue eye. You're fucking stupid. You asked a Chinaman to say squirrel. We did this on you. Squirrel. There's nothing wrong with him. He just can't fucking say squirrel.
Right.
He hasn't got, I'm a Chinaman, can't say squirrel. CCS. I'm a CCS. Right. CSS. You see?
Right.
I was a bit dyslexic then.
Right.
No, people all seem to be too proud to have letters after their names or to put letters after someone else's name.
Right.
To, not my fault. He's got DCFC.
What does that stand for? I
just make it up.
But it is.
I'm DGAF.
What?
Don't give a fuck.
So there you have it. It's a Criminal Connection podcast exclusive.
Yeah.
That Jim Davidson
I've got letters. I'm on the spectrum. I'm suffering from
DGAF. Don't give a fuck. I mean, I love that. I do love that. I mean, one of the things that did make me laugh, because obviously, because I was born in the 70s, I've obviously grown up and seen how everything's changed. And I'm sort of with you on this kind of sort of diversity woke stuff. I do think it's gone too far. But they have all these weeks and months, don't they? So they have sort of,
Black Month.
They've
What about the Mobo Awards? What's that? It's the Black Music Awards. Imagine having a white one. What's happened to the Chinese? Don't they have a musical? And now here's the winner. The ding ba da yima. And second, ding ba da. No.
But the thing for me is, I did wonder whether there should be a heterosexual
Pride Week.
White male month.
It's just the gay thing, because with show business, everyone's fucking gay in show business.
Would you know
I'm
something?
a conservative. They're all fucking MPs are all gay.
I've actually got a half brother because my father and he played a bit of a bad card because he never actually told me I had a half brother till I was 16.
Yeah.
But he's gay. Do you know what I mean? And I've got loads of gay friends.
I can beat that.
Go on, him.
I've got a Muslim daughter-in-law. I know. Look at you. She's been taken aback there, haven't you? And she's a human rights lefty lawyer as well.
Wow.
Married my son, who's the lawyer. I think he's done Ramadan. He does it to lose weight. I think he's stopped.
Do you know something though? I actually love that it doesn't matter what religion you follow.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what colour you are.
Yeah.
But everybody, they have this kind of like they're either really left or really right or centre. I mean, how would you describe yourself, Jimmy? I'd like to say a big thank you to our sponsors, HDB Services, the UK's #1 for fabric, construction and M&E maintenance. They are at the forefront of innovation in their field. Their services include static and mobile fabric support across a wide range of industries, including office, retail, industrial and high-end residential works. They have a reputation for their attention to detail, and their management team are always on hand to support their site teams every step of the way, ensuring 5-star customer service. HDB's fabric team are adept at delivering carpentry and joinery solutions, decoration, fire stopping, fire door installation and maintenance, all backed by British standard certifications and accreditations. HDB are one of the fastest growing maintenance teams in the UK. And if you're not using them in your buildings, you don't know what you're missing out on. HDB Service, the #1 fabric and maintenance service partner. Do you just say you was in the middle? Or would you say, because people always paint people, don't they?
Me, the person.
No, you just personally.
Me, the right wing, maybe.
Right.
Me on stage, trying to just ridicule everything.
Right.
I'm working to my audience. I look at them and think, right, I've got to lead this lot. I mean, the idea is that I can say to them, right, come on, everyone up, we're going out.
Right.
And they come with me.
Right. I mean, I look at Ricky Gervais, right, and he plays that really well. I mean, he gets away with, you know, poking fun at everybody and never.
But he's a
gets
bit of a
cancelled.
lefty, isn't he? Really?
Do you know what? I don't know, but I think he must be, and that's probably
He
why
must be
gets,
at the university. He went to
he
university.
gets-
They're all fucking
he
leftists.
gets
They're
looked
worse than the
after.
police.
The whole thing is mad, you know. And one thing I wanted to go back to, Jim. So after the Jim Davidson show, that ran for, was it 4 years or 3 years?
First one ran for about 4 or 5 years.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And then was the Generation Game next after that?
No, it was after that. I did a show called Up the Elephant and Round the Castle. They wanted me to leave the comedy and go into a sitcom, and that was followed. Funny enough, it was followed by Home James, which was a continuation. It was the same character, but he'd grown older, and it was written by Jeff McQueen, who devised The Bill.
Right.
And that was okay. It was, and then they said, "What about doing Jim Davidson shows late after the Watershed, 9:30?" So it wasn't, but you could say shit twice. You have to work out how many fucks is a shit worth. You know,
Right.
Can you say 4 shits? If you say fuck less, you can say shit more. Right. So I did all that, and then along came a man called John Howard Davis, who was the producer of, I think, 40 Towers.
Right.
Come from the BBC. And got rid of me and Benny Hill on the same day from Thames Television. And that was it. So I just sat around, and then my manager, Laurie, turned up and threw a VHS cassette on my desk, on my kitchen table, and said, the BBC want you to do this.
What was Laurie's second name?
Mansfield.
Oh, right. I thought it was somebody else because there was a guy. Was he the theatre producer, Laurie Mansfield?
He did produce Buddy with Peter Elliott, yeah.
Was it Q? Did he have a company called? Was it Q or?
No, the Kudos was another one of their.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I think Laurie sold international artists.
Yes.
To Kudos. Well, Laurie ran international artists.
So I actually met Laurie.
Yeah.
It is the same guy. I thought it was a different name.
Brummy
But-
bloke, nice.
Yeah, but he was talking to. Do you ever meet Wolf Pine?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was a good pal of mine. And he was-
Birmingham bloke, Wilf Pine.
No,
wasn't
he was down in Bournemouth, but he used to manage Black Sabbath. And
Yeah, Laurie was fascinated with all stuff Birmingham. He wanted to do a film or a play about Wilf Pine.
Yeah.
That was Laurie's idea to do Buddy, which was a big international success.
yeah, so that was how I met Laurie.
Yeah.
But I thought you might have bumped into him because of that sort of network. But
No, I never did. Laurie always kept the one hand, didn't know what the other hand was doing. So he managed Cannon and Ball as well. And because there was conflict between, does he want to get them a TV series and me? You know, we're all jealous, fucking egotistical, but he kept it all separate. But he threw this cassette player down, a VHS, and he said, the BBC want to sign you up to do a series of this. I said, what is it? He said, it's some shit show about snooker. And it was called Big Break. And I watched the pilot that they did, and it was Mike Reed, the comedian who did the pilot.
great, Mike, wasn't he?
Great. And they said, they don't want him, they want you. I said, I can't fucking do this. This is Mike Reed's show. They said, they want to give you 10 grand an episode. I said, fuck Mike Reed. I'll find another mate. And so I went on and did that, and I got rid of Len Ganlon, was it?
Right.
Someone was doing it, the referee. And I brought in John Virgo, who no one had heard of, and the rest is history. Then on about series 7 of that, did it for 12 years, you know.
Wow.
I know. Sometimes 4 a day we were doing. It was knackering. A little man came in straight off the pink bus and said, Jim, help. I said, what's up? He said, we're in Studio 1. Bruce Forsyth's gone sick. Can you stand in tomorrow and do the Generation Game? I said, yeah, I'll do it. So that was it. I did it. And then when Bruce, it made him get better fucking quick, I'll tell you that. And then when he went into them to say, what about the next series of the Generation Game? They said, no, we've got someone else. They gave it to me.
Wow.
I know, and that was it. That was the best thing. Series 1, didn't fancy that. And then Series 2, I swapped producers with Noel Edmonds.
Right.
He didn't like his producer. I didn't like mine. I wanted to move on from Bruce Forsyth. You'd be all right. and we changed. And then one day we were doing a scene, and we started throwing. I wanted to make it a bit like Tiz was, bit mad, unpredictable, no rules at all, and 60% game and 40% mayhem.
Right.
And the camera was had pulled back, and you could see the set and the crew throwing the water. I said, we've got to keep that in.
Right,
so the crew became part of it, and we sort of pulled the fourth wall down a little bit.
I bet they loved that, though.
They loved it. I adored it. It was great. I had Mr. Blobby on there. He set me on fire once with a fucking exploding sausage.
What did he do? Did he go, that's for Noel?
No, he didn't. No, he didn't do it on purpose. Set me hair alight, and I looked through his mouth. Barry Killowy's the geezer who played it, and I looked through the hole in his mouth. His eyes were like that, and I thought he'd say, "Sorry, Jim." You know what he said? "Oh, Blobby." I loved that. Blobby made me laugh so much. And I did the Generation Game and Big Break, and then someone came along and said, we don't want Jim Davidson here anymore. Not for any reason.
Right.
Political correctness was turning up again, I suppose. So they gave me £1 million and said, bye.
That must have been terrible.
Well, I didn't have much of it because I'd owed so much in tax, and then you pay the commission and whatever. Right. I just about afford a new boat and another wife.
Right, okay. But that's all right.
Yeah. Still got the boat.
Because talking about boating,
yeah.
I mean, you are a captain, aren't you?
Mm.
I mean, that must have been. I mean, did you just decide what was the calling for that? Did you just buy the boat?
Me and Laurie went summer season down in Chalky, 1978, with a lovely bay. So we went and bought a boat. Two of us in suits. Went and bought a boat in Paynton, jumped in it, drove it back. Two of us, like Hammy Hamster and Roddy Rat on the fucking river. Drove back across the bay, and that was it. And then it got a bigger boat, and a Sunseeker, and then a this and a that and whatever. I've got quite a good old boat now. Yeah. I've got a 61-footer now. It's a Princess 61. And I love anything, a challenge. So I went straight in the deep end and passed me yacht masters because I've been boating for 20 years. Right. There's a lot of mathematics to do and stuff, but I got by. And so now I'm a yacht master captain. I can drive a 200-ton boat.
I thought you'd have wore your hat today, Jim. Then I could have
saluted
you.
Don't have that. That's the barnet up. I've got a shirt, though, with the funny things on.
All the pickets.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah, I have.
Brilliant. And obviously through your time in show business,
yeah,
you obviously met your fair share of rogues.
Yeah.
And there was one of them called the Milkman.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised.
It's interesting how I met the Milkman.
But I'd love to know.
Well, I met.
And he doesn't deliver milk, does he?
No, he doesn't. I don't know why he's called the Milkman. I think he always delivered.
That was it, wasn't it? Yeah,
I think so. Nicest bloke I've ever met. Right. It's Brian Wright. Brian Brendan Wright, as they said in the court.
Right.
Yeah, so let's go back a bit. I had a few mates. I had to be looked after by a couple of SAS guys, ex-SAS guys, something with the military, nothing to do with villainy or anything.
But you was high profile. I mean,
yeah, there was all that stuff going on with the IRA and the hunger striking, and everyone got a bit touchy. And of course, then I'd just gone on the television and done a show with me in the Falklands,
right.
And so then the phone started ringing with these double accents, and so I got looked after a bit, and I met one guy who tagged on,
right.
And he came to the Palladium, I think, and said, Lionel Blair brought him in, Lionel. We said, this is my friend John. He's going to kidnap Ronnie Biggs. What? The train robber? Yeah, look at him, and he's lovely. I said, yeah, he's not my type, Lionel, but there you go. And so we all went out to dinner down to Stocks in the, not the Old Kent Road, the Chelsea thing, along there. And went into Di Llewellyn's place, and this guy sat there and told us all that it was me, lovely boy, he was there. He told us he was going to go and kidnap Ronnie Biggs. And so I listened, and I said, why would you want to do that? Well, he said, it's Ronnie Biggs' idea. I said, what do you mean? But where is he anyway? He's in Brazil, but he's going to be extradited. He said, but there's no extradition order between England and Brazil. I said, so what then? He said, well, he's going to be extradited to Australia for failing to pay maintenance to his ex-wife. Right. And from Australia, you can be taken back. I said, oh. He said, so we've got this plot. We're going to film it and everything. I paid no attention. What a fucking idiot. And about a month later, I'd met this girl and I said, "Do you fancy coming to Barbados for a holiday?" Yeah. So she booked the holiday. Or someone said, "Go to Barbados, you'll love it." So I booked the holiday. Off I went. And I get there. As I got off the plane, I've read the local paper, which was a day old, Ronnie Biggs kidnapped in Brazil. So I grabbed Mike Parkinson. Oh, there's a bit of a name drop. And I said, "Fucking hell, look, I know this fucking bloke. I know this bloke." Honestly, 2 nights later, I got a message packed under my door. "I'm getting married in Bridgetown. Come along, Johnny Miller."
Right.
We don't know that. Oh, my God. Right? So they kidnapped Ronnie Biggs, brought him by boat and brought him into Barbados where they got nicked, clapped in irons. Right? Now, I don't know any of this, but I go along to find out. I said to Mike Parkinson, "Come on, let's go and fucking find out what's going on." So I went along. There he is, all there, packing photographs. So 2 days later, I get a phone call from Laurie. "Jim, you're on the front page of the paper." "What?" He said, "You're a terrorist." "What?" He said, "You've kidnapped Ronnie." "Fuck off, have I? I've just been to a do. I was nosy." And that was it. So when I came back, there was a few stirs and people were saying, "You fucking, we're going to get you," and this and that. And I paid no attention to it because it had no substance at all. And I went to the Kempton Park races, and Jimmy the One, this bloke called Jimmy the One, came over, Oblin. He said, "Yeah, I've got a little horse for you here." He was a tipster. And then he said, "You want to come meet my governor?" So I went over, and there was Brian Wright at the bar. Handsome, immaculate, smart, quiet. And he blanked me a bit. All right. And so I went and spoke to him, and he said, "Jim, it's good to meet you, but that Ronnie Biggs thing was a bridge too far." I said, "What are you talking about?" And so I sat and told him the story. He said, "Right, leave it all to me." And all the trouble went away. I'm not saying he's threatened people, but everyone then knew the truth. And then the truth came out. And all one would call the chaps when someone said, "Oh, he's this, he's that, he's him." It wasn't them. It was all the little ones that want to be, all the little wannabes were all saying that Jim Davidson, And so the true story is I was just fucking nosy and wanted to go along and have a look.
Well, a lot of people pick up, I think it's less now, but back then, if it's in the paper, it was gospel.
Yeah. Yeah, of course it's, and then, listen to this, Di Llewellyn does a head, "I heard them planning it in my club." This is Di Llewellyn, who owned the fucking club. "What the fuck are you doing?" He said, "Come on, Jim, it's good publicity." I said, you nearly got me killed. Windsor Davis, me and Lionel Blair planned the kidnap of Ronnie Biggs. Have you ever heard anything so fucking ridiculous?
I love that.
I didn't think in my wildest dreams this bloke was serious.
Right.
I don't know the outcome of it. I'm not sure what happened.
I mean, when you're in that environment and you're having something to it, you're having a few drinks, and people get pissed, they do talk bollocks. So you probably just thought they were talking bollocks.
He weren't pissed.
Oh, when he was telling you that?
He was an ex-soldier.
Right.
They say he was in the SS, but I know he wasn't.
Right.
He's a big, good-looking jock, Right. But me and the milkman became friends then forever.
Right.
Great guy.
And
I never knew anything about what he was charged for. I swear to that. I knew nothing about that. And just to let your viewers know that he was convicted of conspiracy to supply, 40,000 tons of fucking cocaine into this country and got 30 years in prison. I spoke at the trial.
And that was, how long ago was that? I mean, it's got to be
15, 20 years ago.
Wow. So that was.
I lived in Dubai, and I flew over to give evidence about what I knew about Brian Wright. I thought he got his money by sort of making sure that the jockeys told him who's going to win, because he was banned from lots of. And he used to say to me, "Jim, go and put this on this horse for me," and he'd give me a loaf of bread full of money. I said, "Why are you fucking giving it to me?" "Well, they know you'll have money. They know you're Jim Davidson, Chuck away Charlie.
Right.
They all know me," and he ended up getting banned from. So I thought that was his game.
Right.
So I turn up and go to court, and I stand up, and the defence, the prosecutor said some bits and pieces. And then the defence said, "Before I ask you a question, Mr. Davidson, is it right that you once took lots of drugs and in fact dealt in drugs?" This is the fucking defence. And the judge said, "Mr. Davidson, you don't have to answer that question." I said, no, Your Honour, I do. I said, "I did write about that." I said, "When I said I was a drug dealer, I was the one from the pub they sent down to the other pub to get the stuff because everyone else was scared of the real drug dealers. That was it.
So you was a courier.
I was a courier. I was a county linesman. I went from Woolwich to Charlton.
There you go. So you've heard it. This is an exclusive.
All speed. It was all fucking speed. Everyone lived on speed in them days. I used to take hundreds of them. God knows how.
What were they like? Were they blueies?
Blues.
Yeah.
Dexedrine and blues. You take, 2 or 3 of them, keep you awake at night. I used to take 250 a weekend. I'm telling you this because I'm not boasting, but I'm telling you how fucking addictive personality I am.
Right.
Now, I never used to take cocaine or stuff until much later in life, in show busy life. And the other thing is, I didn't believe that Brian Wright was anything to do with cocaine. He never gave me a fucking line of coke, the tight bastard.
Yeah, Brian, what's wrong with you, mate?
Yeah, come on. Come on. I remember the first time I took it, I bumped into a bloke who remained nameless. He was a sort of Eastern European-y type. Jim, come with me. You fancy a line? Well, I always just take speed. I'm like, I'll fucking have a go. I was top of the bill at the London Palladium doing panto, and I went into Stringfeller's toilet with him, and he shined up the lid of this toilet seat, and he put these lines of coke. I was fucking fascinated. And he got a little tube out. I thought, not a £50 note. He got a little tube out, and he passed it to me, and I'm looking down at these 4 lines of cocaine, and all I did was this. And it went, gone. That was my first experience of taking cocaine.
I take it you never offered you it again.
Do they come in pill form? Seriously, that was funny. It. So I haven't taken a drug since 1993. I went in a clinic, get myself off it. It's not the fact that it was drink with me. Drink was my undoing. And typical alcoholic, I want it now. That time. I'm still like that.
And when you was drinking, because I know some alcoholics wake up and they just drink, and others go on a bender. Did you go on like days of benders? Or
no,
was it just like
drank too much, woke up and felt shit all day, and then because I couldn't go on stage pissed, I certainly couldn't go on hungover. So I had to drink between the bit when you come off stage and go to bed, so you can get up in the morning without feeling shit, and that just catches up with you. I was sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. And I drink now, and occasionally I drink too much. But now, like last night, should I go to the pub? I sat in, cooked myself something, and had a couple of glasses of wine. That was it, because I knew if I'd go out, maybe I wouldn't get pissed, but you wake up, felt like a pickled onion jar in the morning. And I don't want to be lazy. I've got to do your show today. I've got to do the show tonight in Basildon, and then tomorrow night in Basildon. We're going to see Sarah at the Fox.
Right.
With Jimmy Jones, hopefully he might come along, the old bugger. So I tend to, I'm probably better off not drinking at all.
Right.
But I know there's a realism that will prevent that happening to me. I could go to AA, but it would change me totally, and my life would have to change.
And in '93, when you said that you obviously got help for it, was that like going into like somewhere like the Priory? Or,
yeah,
right,
I went in a place called Farm Place.
Right.
It was 7 miles from my house because I escaped one night and ran off and walked home. And my wife Tracy said, "Come off, you've got to go back." So I sneaked back in.
Right.
They didn't even know I'd gone. The old SAS training, mate.
It comes in handy.
Yeah. Well, that was a true story about the milkman. And I'm not ashamed to say that he was my best friend. And I know he's working on a movie of this now. And I know a few people that's working with him, including Guy Ritchie, who wants to have a sniff at it. And I'm not surprised because it was just such a shock to me.
But the thing is, it's lots of people associate the criminals that are in the public eye as being the criminals, but the ones that aren't in the public eye, and like you said, with him, you thought he was just a tipster and a gambler.
Do you know, I'm not even convinced he was. Right. I went in court and said, "No, this is all bollocks."
Right.
Mr. Davidson, you don't have to use that language. Sorry, Judge, I was being a bit of a
right. Do you know what? There's a funny story. This guy I know he kept getting nicked for shoplifting, and he got nicked so many times that they actually give him a custodial sentence. And when he went to court, the brief said to him, "You're definitely going to go to jail this time." So when he got stood up and the judge sort of hit the thing and said, "You're going down for 2 years or whatever," he went, "I'm not, Your Honour." He goes, "I've got this," and pulled out a get out of jail free card. And he went, fucking potty the geezer. He's going, I will not tamper this in my court. He
didn't
give
laugh.
him another 6 months, but it was just funny. I just thought, I can't believe he
What's
did
happened
it.
to the judiciary now? They've gone so left. There's people in prison now for putting hurty words on there. There's people with machetes walking around that.
I mean, that's one thing that I wanted to talk to you about, Jim, as well, because obviously we're what they call the old boys or the old school or whatever. But, when you look at the UK, how it was and how it is now, it is crazy how bad the crime is. There's people getting
it's
their
not a
phones
black or
taken.
white thing or a Muslim thing or anything.
it's
It's
just,
just bad
just crime.
behaved people. Like the guy who nearly ran me off the street just a minute ago outside here, up my arse at 70 mile an hour. There are people that suffer from not being nicked enough. There's no police. Have you seen any police?
Well, no, I was actually saying to my wife the other day, when we used to, if we ever went into London, when we used to come out, you'd always get a tug, right? But there's no tugs now. And you just sort of think, and I was, if you look at all the nice places in London, like the Chelseas, the Mayfairs, the Bond Streets, they're probably more dangerous to walk on. I mean, outside Knightsbridge, outside Harrods, I think it was the week before Christmas, there was a sign saying, please leave your valuables at home. You just sort of think, what's the point
Who's
of
the
having
people
them?
that's doing this crime, Terry?
Do you know something? I just
Youths.
think it's anybody. I think the problem now is, I think there's a limit on shoplifting. So as long as you nick underneath that limit,
Have you
don't
seen
get
the
nicked.
films of these people going in and loading up stuff?
Yeah. I mean, it's just mad. If we did it, we'd get fucking in trouble. But
Because we're white. This all the film. I've just been collating a load of this stuff,
Right.
And when people say, "Oh, it's a racist thing to say," it's just bad guys. But most of all the films I've got are all people that don't look like me and you.
Right.
And they just walk in and help themselves. They think, what are you going to do about it? There's no what if anymore, is there? Don't do that again, or what? Or what? What are you going to do? Nothing is the answer.
I was talking to someone about this the other day, and we was having a conversation about how you turn it round. And I think what was interesting was he was saying, there's so many issues, right? And I think because we're in this sort of woke environment, people can blame bad behaviour on, well, it's because I've got this, or because I've got that, or because I haven't got a dad, or because I haven't got any money. But when I grew up, I had no money.
No.
Well, I'm sure you had no money, right? But you actually done something to get money. Do you know what I mean? So
Stole it.
Nobody come to you and went, here, Jim, here's a bag of money.
I know one did.
Here, Jim, I'll put you on television. You haven't got to do anything.
No,
I'll just
that's
out the
right.
door and you just stand there and everyone will laugh. I mean, you have to put in a lot of work. Don't you?
Yeah, you do.
But I mean, do
The
you
law
think?
and order's all over the place. At the moment.
But do you think that the way to combat would be to increase the severe? So when the police arrest somebody, they don't just, if they're carrying a blade or a machete or a gun or whatever, they just go, right, you get 10 years. Do you think that?
Well, it's a 5 years now, isn't it, for an offensive weapon? It's 5 years for I got arrested for having a Colt 45 automatic pistol once, years and years and years. It was rusty as far. I brought it back from the Falklands, but I asked the judge if I could have it back. Go away.
What happened with that then? How did you get?
There's thousands and thousands of guns in the Falklands in 1983 when I was there. There was pyramids of rifles and rocket launchers and things. I just helped myself, took them all back.
But did they stop you when you come into the country? Or?
No.
So was that just somebody tipped someone off and said, "Oh, you've got a firearm"?
No, I got stopped by the police for pulled over, whatever. I said, lads, before you go anything, I've got a gun in the back. I said, what? I said, I've got a gun in the back. What the? And I showed them. They were, oh, for fuck's sake, what's that for? I said, I was taking it to a bloke who's going to saw it in half to mount it. Oh, no, you can't fucking do that. So I went and explained and this was ages ago before it was mandatory. I mean, it's not as if I was a gangster or a thug. I was just someone that just come back from the Falklands and I brought a souvenir back.
Didn't you think about making an inappropriate joke when they said, "What's that in the car for?" He said, "It's to shoot police officers. Pull me over."
No. Yeah. There was the joke, wasn't there? Where the policeman stopped the guy and he said, you're going a bit faster. The reason I'm going a bit fast because I've killed my wife. Oh, you're very funny. I have. She's in the boot of the car dead and the gun's in the glove compartment. Right, he said. She's got on the phone. I need some assistance here. So in the end, there's fucking helicopters and stuff. And the policeman walked there. Inspector walked up. Mr. So-and-so? You Mr. So? Yeah. Do you mind us opening your boot? Right, what's that for? you mind opening the boot? Opened it. There's golf clubs in there. He said, can you open the glove compartment? Opened it. Nothing. What's this about, Inspector? My constable told me that you'd shot your wife and that you put her in the boot and the gun is in the compartment there. I bet he told you I was doing 110 mile an hour as well. That's the fucking joke. No, I got to bringing a war souvenir home. I owned up. I said to the policeman straight away, I really should have just got it done there and brought it back. You go to the sergeant's mess and they've got these trophies everywhere. Yeah, they're all been made safe, but I wanted mine, so I wanted to put it on a wall. But I saw it in half, so I could have two.
I mean,
in a frame.
It was such a big thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So to have that as a memory, and when you went there, Jim, was it because you was entertaining the troops, weren't you?
I was entertaining the troops from 1974, something like that, 75. I quite liked it. I never charged them any money, and I was fascinated with that Falklands War, and so I've been down there about 7 times.
Wow,
it's great.
And what was your
next time? I'm going to bring home a tank.
But when you was because everyone knows obviously you've always raised a lot of money for military, so, to help the troops, and you've always done stuff like you said for free to help the troops. What was that because your dad was in the army, or was it just because you had an affiliation to?
No, seriously, it's because in 1975 I was given 75 quid to do 3 days' work in Northern Ireland entertaining the troops, 5 shows a day. It was great. I loved it. Yeah, I didn't know there was any trouble in Northern Ireland. I just thought that's where the fucking troops lived. And that was it. I loved it. Then I went to Cyprus, to the Middle East, and it just got in my blood. And when the Falklands War broke out, all these lads I've been entertaining are now going off to fight.
Right.
So I said, listen, I'll go. So I went, and I loved it. I loved it down there. I like working. I don't do it now. I formed the charity that continues to do it. But see, I believe, the idea of entertaining the troops. When I formed the British Forces Foundation, I called a brigadier in Germany. I said, look, we're going to be able to give you shows free now. You don't have to pay. That was the whole idea of the British Forces Foundation. He said, Jim, I'd rather you concentrate on providing the entertainment with people to people that have no entertainment. He said, 4 of my chaps here went across to Holland and saw Pink Floyd the other night. Oh. I said, we're not short of entertainment. I said, yeah, but wouldn't it be better if Pink Floyd came to them and said, show us how you repair that tank? So a young lad writes home and said, Pink Floyd were here, they fucking love us.
Right.
So that was the whole idea. So when I became in the 60s and soldiers were still 20, I wanted to try and push other people into doing it. But they were all lefties. Ben Elton, all of them, they didn't want to fucking know. Aid Edmondsons, and they didn't want to know the...
Well, no, I think it's admirable what you did, Jim. And I think... lots of people don't respect the armed forces. Lots of people don't give them the love. I mean, we obviously have friends in Hereford, and they've got a great charity up there. Yeah. And a lot of people are sort of like, well, where does the money go? And it's like, well, if you're in the army and you die in action, that money helps the families. And then people go, oh, right, okay.
Yeah,
but I think, without them, I mean, I think we wouldn't be living in a country like we are.
Well, I said when I finished the gig in Poland, I said, everyone loves their armed forces. I said, but it's not the fact that you are our armed forces, but the fact you do it so well. Stick with the winners. These young guys, fit, and young women, they get the job done. They have a thing about themselves, And then you walk around and look at the civilians, especially now the way it's becoming. Yes, we're multicultural, multiracial. How many of these people now that have come to this country will join the British military to fight for Britain if there's any more shit that's going to go on with Russia or China or Iran?
I mean, what's interesting?
Iraq.
What's interesting for me, Jim, is I was talking to a friend the other day, and we were just having this conversation, and he said the problem with England is we're not like America. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, if you go to America and you decide you want to live there, you have to become an American citizen.
Yeah.
So you're not Jewish, you're not Chinese, you're not Muslim, you're not English, you're an English American, you're a Chinese American, you're an African American, do you know what I mean? But you're an American. Yeah. And you have to pledge your allegiance, and you have to basically just give yourself to the country. And they said if they call you up, you have to go. So they said we should be following their lead. And I never thought about that, but I actually thought it made a lot of sense.
Yeah. it does. And also people say, bring back conscription. I don't think that's a good idea at all. I don't think it's the army's job to train yobs and out-of-work people. No, we need a professional army. We just need a little bit more of it. I'd like to see the nuclear deterrent money. It probably costs about, let's pick a figure, 20 billion a year to pay for our nuclear submarines that Keir Starmer's boasting about. If we was to take that out of the defence budget and replace, and top up the defence budget, then not only would we get more people into the military to learn how to be better people, we'd feel more safe, and we'd...
All right, listen up. Whether it's business, life, or even the way you care at your home, one thing's for sure, quality matters. And if you're going to do something, do it properly. That's why I want to tell you about M&D Metalwork. These boys don't mess about when it comes to top-tier metal fabrication. Gates, railings, staircases, composite gates, you name it, they build it. But here's the thing, they don't just slap things together and call it a day. No, mate. These guys take their time to understand exactly what it is you want. And then they craft something completely bespoke, tailor-made to fit your style and your space perfectly. Now, because you're part of the Criminal Connection podcast crew, we've sorted you out a special deal. Use the code POD20, that's POD20 at the checkout for an exclusive 20% discount. That's right, proper custom-made work at a proper price. Head over to M&D Metalwork now by clicking on the link in the description below and get something built the right way. Trust me, you'll notice the difference.
I don't know, Trump would like us a bit more. He wants people to spend a bit more money. If I was an American, I would say, I ain't going no foreign war. I don't give a fuck about Ukraine.
Right.
That's what I would say.
Right. When you look at, the current government, you got Keir Starmer, got Rachel Reeves. I mean, they've only been in...
Got the ginger growler.
Is that what you call her?
No, what's her name? Angela Rayner. They did the ginger growler.
But I'm shocked. I mean, you got the guy who eats bacon sandwiches badly.
Oh, yeah, Miliband.
You look at them all, and you sort of and the choices they're making.
Like the Bass Street kids, don't they?
But the choices they're making are like so bad,
terrible.
And I look at it, and I've got friends of mine who've got businesses that employ lots of people.
No, it's awful.
And they've actually gone, well, now you're putting up all these national insurance things and taxes.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do,
especially the pubs,
I'm going to get rid of people.
They're going to lay people off.
I'm going to shut my business. I'm going to go do something else. Yeah. And then you sort of think, well, if all them people do that, then that means you're going to have to then pay them people money because they're not employed. I mean, it's just mad.
It is a little bit mad. And the fact that it could be run so much better. It's easier to run a country, I reckon. Because
a lot of people, I've got nothing against any political party because I always look at it and I was always, in the Conservative thing because I always sort of was self-employed and earned money. So I was always in that thing. And I've always sort of found that if you're in the Green Party, it's about, we don't like the people on the other side. And if you're in the Labour, it's very sort of, working classes. I'm for the working class, but I've always thought, and I did vote for Tony Blair because I thought he kind of went against what Labour normally do. But when you actually look at Labour now, do you think they're doing it because they think it's a good idea, or do you think it's because they're doing it basically to go to all the people that are?
I just think they're terribly incompetent.
Right.
It's as simple as that. That ginger growler bird on fucking front row. Come on. Deputy Prime Minister. Fuck's sake. David Lammy. Right. Did you see him on that Mastermind skit?
No.
He didn't know anything. Look him up on YouTube. Have a look, folks. David Lammy, Celebrity Mastermind. Who fuck all? Got his name right, and that was it on second attempt.
So that was good.
So they're all bad people. But everyone's looking at Trump now, and yes, he wants to put America first. But there's going to be a few things about that. Does he? And now our Prime Minister wants to put boots on the ground in Ukraine. Well, the more we can do to stop that war, the better for everybody. Putting boots on the ground ain't going to work. We've only got 3 boots anyway. Our tank needs an MOT, and we got the red arrow. Right now, that's it. That's it, because we haven't spent enough money.
I mean, it's I think as well you get a narrative, don't you, about we've got to do this, we've got to do that, we've got to stop Putin. But in the real world, right, everybody sort of wants to do their thing. Everybody wants to make money. Everybody wants to get on. And you know, someone said to me who was quite knowledgeable in his stuff when that first kicked off. He went, "This is going to go on for years.
It will."
He said, "It's a money making exercise." And I was like, "Well, who's making the money?" And he said, "Well, it just is." He said, "People don't go to war. It's all about money. It's all about you do this, you do that. We blow that up, then we rebuild it, and then you know." So
I don't think the president of Ukraine can quite walk on the water that he used to at the moment.
Well,
Putin
Trump gave him a hard
do it.
time, didn't he? When he gave it to him in that interview.
I thought that was awful. Didn't you? Poor fucker. Sat there like that. F off, I'm only an actor.
But when you look at the country now, right? Obviously, we got the Labour government for another 4 years, so I'm hoping that at some point they realise that they got to change course and get everything back on track. I do like some of the stuff they're doing, but I don't like the anti-business stuff because it's hurting people that I.
There's jealousy. Yeah. They don't like the creators of wealth. They don't like it. Labour have socialism. And Margaret Thatcher said, the trouble is with socialism, you run out of other people's money.
That's true.
That's what happens.
But don't you think everybody should be the same, Jim?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I don't want to be like that ginger growler. I used to be ginger. Thank f*** I've got old.
And you know, one of the things that has made me laugh, you know, over the last, it's probably since COVID, right? But over that 4 year period from 2020 to 24, you've had all these like groups, haven't you, like Extinction Rebellion and all these kind of crazy sort of people gluing themselves to votes.
Black Lives Matter.
I mean, and that particular one was crazy because everyone was sort of like donating to that, thinking they were doing good, and then the woman like was embezzling the money and buying houses and I think I don't know if she's been arrested or something's gone on.
She's American.
But I know
Trump will pardon her.
Right, he might not.
I don't think he will.
He might not. No. Well, but when you're looking at this political thing in this country right now, what do you think is the way forward? Do you think the Conservatives are going to come back with Kemi, or do you think it's Farage's game? Or
I don't think Kemi's made the impact that she could have done. You know, black woman, head of the Conservative Party, back against the wall. She should have come out fighting a little more. She hasn't made the impact. The impact's being made by Lee Anderson and the Reform Party. And the Ginger Growler, of course, she's managed to cancel a lot of the council elections because the councils can opt out of having an election if they want to regroup and reorganise themselves. So all the councils that Reform would piss it have now put back their ability to vote or their polling day for another 6 months.
Wow! On
May the 2nd, I think we're going to have a huge amount of Reform characters and councillors. You see, I still vote. I'm still a Conservative. I'm looking at Reform, and I know them. They're all mates of mine. But I like the Carlton Club, so I'm not kicking myself out the Conservatives yet. But what I would really like is for them to speak to one another and have a dialogue, because the Conservative Party are on the rocks and Reform are the lifeboat. If they was to pull them out and do something together, then I think you've got a party that the majority of this country would understand and like.
But somebody did actually say when, you know, over the past few years, the Conservatives haven't behaved like the Conservatives, you know.
No.
And that's, you know, I didn't vote for the Conservatives on the last one because I was just like, I can't vote for.
Yeah, it's interesting you're saying that because I was big pals with Thatcher, you know. And she said to me, I said about Tony Blair and everyone in, she said, well, of course, Jim, we made them electable.
Right.
And I didn't quite grasp what she meant. I didn't like to say, what? And what she meant, eventually someone told me, is that the Conservatives were so strong in what they were doing and their majority was so huge that the Labour Party had to alter themselves and move slightly away from that left ground. Right. So it was because of the Conservative Party forced them to move slightly to the right, it made the Labour Party electable.
Yeah.
And that was what she meant.
And you know, I was a massive fan of Margaret Thatcher, mainly because that right to buy thing that she did.
Yeah, I bought my mum's council house.
Well, that's how we got on the property ladder. Without that, we wouldn't have probably ever owned a house. You know, so I was always grateful to her. And then that's what made me think, actually, I'm going to be a conservative. And you know, lots of people
Same as
hate
me.
Margaret Thatcher.
Exactly the same as me. Exactly the same. I used to hear her voice, oh, shut up, you fucking posh cow. Oh, I can buy the council house for $9,000.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Give us 2.
But, you know, what was Margaret Thatcher like? Because they called her the Iron Lady.
Yeah.
And she didn't take any fucking shit. And that's what I loved about her. But what was she actually like, Jim? Because you must have...
I used to go, when she was, she liked me and asked me to go and do a few scary things abroad and that with the troops. And when she was not well, especially after Dennis left us, I used to go and see her once a week and sit in her house and chat with her in the front room. She was a patron of my charity, the British Forces Foundation.
Is that still going now, Jim?
Eh?
Is it still going now?
Yeah, still going now, yeah.
We'll put a link in the thing to get our viewers to donate as well.
Yeah, and the other one, of course, was Care After Combat, which was, I formed with Goose. You met Goose up in Hereford, didn't you? And what we did, we wanted to stop veterans when they're in prison. Once they come out, we want to make sure they don't go back in again. So it was that rehabilitation thing with the mentors. Right. Yeah, so I did that. But I used to go and see her every Tuesday or Wednesday, sit in the front room, and talk to her, have a little gin. Yeah. For about a year. I mean, at least once a month or twice a month. And it was quite sad to see her finally go. And then she didn't quite know who I was. And so I said to Mark Ermat, I said, is there anybody? Oh, Jim, please, keep coming. You make her laugh. She doesn't know who you are. She doesn't know who I am.
Did she have the banter with you, though? So
yeah.
Was she a good...
I knew how to... She'd sit back like this. She'd sit back and look down her nose a little bit. And sometimes she'd say to me, because Dennis died, you know. I said, I know, Margaret. Yeah. And then I changed the subject to the Falklands War. They said it couldn't be done. That was it. And I missed her when she went. I couldn't go to her funeral because I was on bail with that Operation Yewtree bullshit.
I mean, that'd be great to chat about that because when it's sort of quite sad because, you know, all the people that I grew up, from Jimmy Savile to Gary Glitter, they're just all fucking asses. And the thing is, I look at it now and I just think, was anybody not an ass? Or was it...
Yeah, me.
No, but I'm not...
You know what the policeman said to me as he put me in the cell? He said, Jim, he said, listen, I won't worry too much, mate. This is the station sergeant. Right. He read the evidence, right? He weren't the Operation Yewtree. It wasn't Operation Yewtree who nicked me anyway, it was some other fucking idiots. And he put me in the cell and said, Jim, yours is not about underage. Yours were all old slappers. I said, his exact words. I fucking, first time I'd smiled all day. Yeah, I did it. I give them plenty. Don't you worry about that. Yeah, it was. Well, I was at 18 months on bail, and then they called and said no further action.
Because this was a crank, wasn't it? Was there some guy come out and said, "Oh,
no"? I think that Nick you're talking about. No, he was going up. That was a different thing. That was Operation Midland. I think that was something.
There was so many of these things, weren't there?
Yeah, there was.
But what started Operation?
The people, Keir Starmer, who was the head of the public prosecutions, people had complained about certain things. So the police thought we can't have another fucking Jimmy Savile. We don't want another inquiry. We can't afford it. Let's go back, who's complained about who, and we'll arrest the fucking lot. So I got done. Seriously, I only knew one of the women out of 12 of them that had complained. One said I twanged her suspender belt in a pub in the Old Kent Road in 1977.
I'm sure you remember that.
Well, that's what I said. I can't remember that. And he said, was it something you would do? Yes. I said, yeah. Another woman said she walked past me on stage. I was on stage, and she walked on a cabaret floor. She walked past and I pulled her skirt up to show her stockings and suspenders. I said, that's sexual assault. Is it? Yes. Okay, I said, well, you know, what? Fair enough. So me and Henry Brandman, my lawyer, and Goose and a couple of people, we got all the evidence about everybody that said this, that, and the other. And we presented it to the police by my QC, Trevor Burke. And the police called us back in, me and Henry. He said, number 2 woman, she got her story a bit wrong. Pardon? It wasn't the London Palladium. It wasn't 1987. It was somewhere different. Hang on a minute. We've just proved her allegation to be total fabrication. And she's come up with a new story. You must have told her. No, No, we haven't. I said, for fuck's sake, come on. I said, I'll tell you what we do. These other accusations, we won't give it any evidence. We won't give any counterclaim. We'll go to court and I'll make you look a complete fucking tit. Would you like that? No, please, you carry on. I said, well, we want some assurance that what we say, you are not going to go back and tell these people, make a new... She made up a completely new story. Changed it 4 years, different venue, different thing, different friend that was with her.
I mean, someone was talking to me the other day.
It's not fair, is it?
No. Someone was telling me the other day that what we're in now is it's like victim culture.
Yeah.
Where people go, oh...
These were called victims. They weren't called the complainers or the whatever. They were called victims straight away. And I said to the policewoman, hang on a minute. She said, they're victims. Oh, yeah, we take what they say as the truth until we can prove it otherwise. I said, shouldn't that be the other way around? She just rolled her eyes as if to say to me, Jim,
You're right.
It ain't us.
But if you think about it, though, something happens 30, 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? Like you said, how can you fucking remember?
No,
right, firstly.
No.
But secondly, I could just come out and go, oh, yeah, Jim touched me 20 years ago, and people go, right, we're going to go nick Jim. And
it's the
just
accusation that does it.
Man.
The accusation that is the thing. Yeah, in America.
I just want to say that you
yeah.
didn't touch me, Jim.
No, not yet. I'll give it another 30 years. I'll give it another... What's the time? Oh, I've got to do a gig in a minute. I've got to go in a minute. I honestly, I don't make the rules, and I was going through it, and I knew I hadn't done any of it. All I had to do was to convince the police. But I'd thought they'd made their mind up. I thought it's a done deal. They got Jimmy Tarbuck and other.
So who actually was found guilty out of them guys? Because you was innocent.
Yeah. No, I wasn't even charged.
No, but that's what I mean. You was innocent. Yeah.
I don't know who was. I know Paul Gambaccini wasn't, and I think Stuart Hall, part of Gary Glitter. I don't know if he was part of it all. Certainly Rolf Harris.
Right.
What's that about? I never liked him.
He's a bit of an odd character, wasn't he?
He's just a...
That's what I love about you, Jim. You just tell him how it is.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Can you do a Jimmy Savile impression?
No, not really. I just do sort of like a northerner. We used to hear him coming along the corridor. Now then, how's about that? And you just run away.
Right.
How was it going? He had no mates. He was a loner, walking along,
right.
Dressed like a fucking clown.
I mean,
I thought he was gay.
There was something
I
wrong
always
with
thought
him.
he was gay, and all that bravado. I've been with loads of women. How's about that? Nah, he's a fucking gay bloke.
he was definitely a bit odd.
He did the generation game with me. It was great.
Right.
It was superb.
Yeah.
Glitter was on my TV show about 5 or 6 times. We used to do sketches together. You don't know. You don't look into it. Because once they come on the show, they do their bit. They turn up, do their bit, and fuck off. Right. You don't say goodbye or whatever, maybe have a drink later, but you're busy doing the rest of the show. You have multiple guests. I found him all right. I didn't like Savile.
Right. And then,
Didn't like Rolf either.
Right, Rolf and Savile were but everyone else was okay. Yeah. when you look at all the people, like in that period, because people now talk about fame, and obviously if you're on social media and you've got followers, you're famous, right? Anyone can be famous now.
Yeah.
But your level of fame in the late 70s and 80s when you were on TV all the time,
wasn't it?
I mean, it's like everybody in the country was watching you. I mean, what was it like for that to have that level of fame? Was it like everywhere you went, people were just jumping on you?
Yeah, it's great.
So you enjoyed
Great.
it? Because a lot of people don't like
and
it.
it's the money that goes with it.
Right.
It's okay if you're earning £100,000 a week like I was. They can have as many pictures as they fucking want. It's now when you're skint. I always think of...
20 quid, mate.
No, what was the bloke who sang My Cuckoo, Alvin Stardust? Like when he was skint, he'd go on a bus somewhere, but he's still Alvin Stardust. Give us a sign. Oh, fuck off. I ain't got any money. I don't have to put up with it anymore.
If you sort of fast forward to, I think it was 2001 when you got your OBE.
Yeah.
I mean,
Tony Blair gave it to me.
Wow. And was you, because I mean, you've obviously done a lot for charity. You've done a lot for the armed services. You've done a lot for comedy. Yeah. But was it for the charity work, or was it just
charity
everything?
Work? Yeah.
Right. Amazing. And did you sort of say to him who gave it to you? Was it
Prince of Wales?
Right. Amazing.
So I wore my kilt, right, and took I put my daughter and 2 of my lads.
Right.
The 2 boys got the kilts on. They didn't particularly like that much, and as I went forward. They call it James Cameron Davidson. And I walked forward, and the Prince of Wales, who I knew well, went, "Oh, it's you!" And he said, "I've been so looking forward to giving you this." And they pinned it on me.
Right.
They put a little hook first, and he just hangs it on it. He said, honestly, he said, "I've never seen you in a kilt before." I said, "I'm wearing it in honour of my father, sir." He said, "Oh, is he here?" I said, "No, sir, he's..." Like that. And he went, "Oh, I'm sorry. Honestly." And I said, "Oh, no, he's not dead. He's nicking the lead off the palace roof." Right? And he laughed. And he turned round to a Gurkha who was talking. He said, he's incorrigible. And this Gurkha went, I'll never forget that. As if a fucking Gurkha would know what incorrigible meant. Try saying it. You should squirrel. He's inscrutable. I love him, the king.
Wow.
I love him, adore him.
Yeah. So, Jim, you've hung out with prime ministers, kings.
Villains.
Villains.
Yeah.
Have you got any other villains that you come across in your sort of history?
No, not really. It all depends what... I've seen lots of bullies.
Right.
You know, fucking bully boys that won't have a go. They're sort of rude. But the villains... I met Frankie Fraser once. He was getting on a little bit. Seemed nice. I bought him a drink in Tramp. A few other people.
Yeah.
You know, but they don't wear "I'm a villain." They're not sort of like that. Or they're not. They don't behave in the ways, with respect, some of the, you guys portray them in the movies.
Right. Well, with Frankie, I mean, when I met him, I was always shocked because someone said, "Oh, Frankie Fraser over there. I've introduced you." And he's so fucking small, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And I always looked at him and I was like, "Wow, you're mad Frankie Fraser," you know. But
Yeah.
when you read the books, you expect him to be 6 foot tall.
Your bollocks are in a fucking cheese grater.
Or you'll get electrocuted.
Yeah.
As of late, Jim, you've been doing some great reality stuff like Hell's Kitchen. You obviously won Big Brother.
Yeah.
But with Hell's Kitchen,
Well, it was years ago, Hell's Kitchen. I was living in Dubai.
Right.
And Marco Pierre White came over and said, I've got to do Hell's Kitchen, Jim. Will you come in with me? I said, all right. So I called my manager and I said, "Listen, get me out of this shit. Tell them we want a couple of $100,000 or something and they'll fuck me up." They said, okay. So I flew over and did it. And then there was this bloke, Brand Darling. Right. And I thought, what am I doing with these fucking Z-list people? There's a couple of nice people there, but I fucking hated it.
Right.
And it was all false. It wasn't real at all. And after we was cooking one night, I went out and shook hands with some bloke. I think it was that guy, Craig Revel. Fucking,
I know you mean.
yeah,
I know you mean.
limp wrist. He went. And I went back and I said to this Brian, who was okay, I guess. He was famous for being famous, for nothing. And I said, "Why do fucking shirtlifters have that limp handshake?" And he said, "Oh my God." He said, "That's a horrible word." I said, "Oh yeah, okay." I said, "Why do he have that face?" He said, "Oh, I don't look like that, do I?" I said, "No, you're chiseled," because we were all starving.
Right.
I said, "You're chiseled, mate." And that was the end of that. And then later, when we had an argument about when he was telling me how much money he's worth, they offered me £100,000 for my story in the News of the World. I said, "What story?" I won Celebrity Big Brother, or Big Brother. I said, "Yeah, so what's the fucking story? Why are you so awful? Why? You called me a shirt lifter." No, I fucking didn't. There is a difference, isn't there? I apologise. And the next day, I thought, fuck this, I'm going home. So I phoned the person up, the producer, who used to be a runner for me on the fucking Big Break. I said, "I'm leaving." "Well, we want to speak to you anyway, because what you said to Brian, the conversation you had, would upset viewers. There'd be complaints." I said, "Well, edit that bit out." She said, "Pardon?" I said, "Edit that bit. We're not live. If you think it's going to upset the public, surely you have a right to edit that bit out." Anyway, I said, "Yeah, I'm off."
Right.
Once I made sure I'd secured my money, I f***ed off, let them get on with it. And they didn't edit that bit out. They edited it to make it look worse.
Wow.
Honestly.
We'd
have done the same if we were producing a show and it was struggling. We'd have done the same. They threw me under the bus. So it was their thing that made it look bad.
Did they call it Shirtlifter Gate?
I don't know what it was. Shirtgate. And all my gay mates are saying, "You should have fucking knocked him out."
Right. No. The thing is, though, most people
Z-list.
just laugh about stuff like
Yeah,
that.
of course
They don't
they do.
get offended by it 'cause it's just stupid.
Well, I didn't actually call him a shirtless. It's just a name, for fuck's sake.
Right. But it was, yeah, I mean, but people get offended now about
Anything.
anything. Yes, it doesn't have to be anything. It could
I was only speaking to a cocksucker last night. Well, I mean, come on, where's it end?
And when you won Big Brother, what was that like? Because I mean,
After I had 18 months on bail and I went straight in and I won Big Brother.
Right.
Serendipity, someone said. I didn't know what that word meant.
Right.
But, it means you've had a shit year. Someone gave me a present, didn't they?
But that was epic. And then after that, Jim, because the one thing that I felt I'd love to see you when I'm a celebrity, get me out of there. I think that would be epic. Have you ever been approached about that? Or?
Yeah, they did, and I was sort of out of open mind. And I spoke to another 12-year-old girl producer, and she said, "We don't want any arguments in the jungle now. We want people to get on." I said, "Well, it ain't for me then, is it?" I said, "I can get on." I said, "If you want arguments, I'll give you arguments. I know how to make television programs. I've been doing it for
a while.
Yeah, but no. But mind you, I don't think there's any room for me in anything like that. Anyway, I've got my own TV station now, so what do I care?
So Yewtree, which melts
Ustreme,
which melts snowflakes.
It does melt snowflakes. Where do you hear that? We've got to use that.
It just made me laugh. I saw it and it just made me laugh, and I just thought it's just funny, right? But how long's that been going?
4 years now.
Wow.
I started during the just doing stuff, and then I got the rights to Jeffro's stuff, and then Freddie Starr. I thought Freddie Starr was the best entertainer we've ever had. I just adored him.
He loved
all the other content. We make tons and tons of original programs now, and I do a show like this, but on my own, talking about stuff twice a week.
And Freddie loved hamsters, didn't he?
No, that was made up by Max Clifford, who did get nicked.
Right, no, he did. He was another one, wasn't he?
Yeah.
It was just
not a nice man.
Wow.
He had the negatives.
Right. I know people said he used to get everything on everybody, so that he was...
Maybe. I don't
know. But that's what I heard. But
didn't have anything on me. I'm a nice boy. See, I'm a bit of an open book. I don't like keep secrets. I mean, I told you about my life. It is my life. It's there.
Yeah. But I think what you've done, Jim, is always been open and honest. And the thing is, whether people agree with you or disagree with you, they should take you at face value. And I don't think people should judge you just because you have an opinion. It's your opinion, right?
Yeah.
And they say opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one, So your opinion might not work with me and mine might not work with you, but it doesn't matter. We can still have a laugh, right? And have a glass of wine.
Yeah, great. Exactly that. Yeah, that's how it should be.
Yeah. And you've also written a couple of books as well. And I mean, do you want to talk about the books that you've done?
Well, the first I wrote two with ghostwriters. Someone said, "You want to write a book? Here's 50 grand. So I want to write it for you." I did that, and then I wrote the one "No Further Action," which is still a sale on the TV show website, and that was basically the notes that I'd made when I was making notes after every police interview. I was making notes, and then at the end of it all, I mean, Cliff Richard and Paul Gambaccini wanted me to join up with them and jointly sue the police. I said, I don't want to do that. The police weren't their fault. No. It's the Crown. You want to sue the Crown Prosecution Service or whatever, fine. But, it was wrongful arrest. They hadn't done any due diligence or questioned anybody.
Well, I think what they did to Cliff Richard was really bad because it was like front page news, television coverage. And you think
it's awful. And he said, "Well, how are you going to get any money back? You didn't work for 18 months." And I said, "I know, but I'm going to write a book." So I did. I didn't want to get involved with slagging off the old Bill.
No. I think there's only going to be one winner.
I know. Next time I'm a tad over the limit, they'll push that needle.
Yeah.
They won't push the needle back.
Oh, Jim, you're over the limit.
Yeah.
So there was a journalist called Martin Fletcher. Do you remember him?
No.
He basically called you extraordinarily foul-mouthed, racist, and sexist.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on journalists, witch hunts, and this sort of fake news thing? Because it just
anything that's fake, I don't like, but it's probably true what he just said. According to him,
but he got so upset.
But where does he put the benchmark? Right. Where does he? Where have I overstepped his benchmark? It's probably right back there, isn't it? Where other people's is up there, more tolerant people, and of course he's got to sell a newspaper.
That's true.
Jim Davidson's a great bloke. Oh, who gives a fuck about that?
So lots. I don't know if you publicly talked about Freemasonry when you.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. because you're a perfect prince, aren't you?
Yes.
Which is a great name.
Excellent and perfect prince.
I love that, the excellent and perfect prince.
Yeah.
Do you have that on the card? Excellent, perfect prince, Jim Davidson, OBE.
No, Tasha's got me a new card printed. It says Jim Davidson ATM.
That's a good one. I like that.
No, I put OBE on the card once, a business card. Then we get to America, they say, Mr. Obi. So I don't have business cards anymore. I joined Freemasonry 40 odd years ago. I was master of Chelsea Lodge. I left Chelsea Lodge when I was the master. I didn't like the way it turned into a cabaret agency. And I took Freemasonry really, really seriously. I joined lots of other things. I became Grand Herald of Scotland of the Knights Templar. And became excellent and perfect prince in Rhodes Choir, but I haven't been for that for a while. And I formed one lodge called the British Horses Foundation Lodge, but you move away, don't you? So at the moment we're trying to move it to Surbiton. Right. There's a lovely temple in Surbiton, which is going to be nearer to where I'm going to move to Chertsey, because it's too far. So I'm going to start to go back. I don't think I'll go through the chair again. I don't think I'll take office again. You're Chelsea Lodge, aren't you?
Well, I was.
3098.
I was, but I went to the city first. I went through to the master, and then I decided I didn't. You know, when you sort of sit in a lodge, you're not really happy with it.
Yeah.
And then I thought, actually, I wouldn't mind trying something else. Someone said, "Why don't you go to Chelsea Lodge? It'd be really good.
Yeah.
Be acting, producers."
But that's part of the ritual, isn't it? If you're not happy with someone or with someone you're at variance with, it's best that one or two of you leave the lodge so the rest of the lodge continue in harmony and peace, and not disturbed by your fucking.
But there was nobody I liked everybody there. But you know, when you go somewhere, and you just sort of think, you know, I'm enjoying the Freemasonry bit, but I don't like. There's nothing. I don't feel like I'm part of the family. So when I went to Chelsea, I went there, and then obviously when it happened, everything shut, and then I sort of drifted apart from it, and then I just said, you know what, I'm just going to resign, and then maybe I'll come back to it, because I didn't really have time.
Well, come to the lodge with me down. A couple of lodges meet in Surbiton. It's great. And it interesting me the way people think that Freemasonry is for the old boy network with bowler hats and whatever. It's for everybody. It's for the train driver. It's for the brain scientist. Black. Well, how many Sikhs do we have in Freemasonry? Loads. And black Freemasons.
I was going to ask
Freemasons.
Is there any? Because I only joined because I thought that there was going to be some sort of ceremony with a goat, and is that all just bollocks then?
What, the goat? Remember Dave Lee, the comedian? Right, he was joining Chelsea Lodge and he was outside. Then we did all this bits and pieces, right. And it's a big lodge meeting, and one of the old guys collapsed and was carried out on a stretcher. They carried him out past Dave Lee, who was waiting. He thought, oh, for sake, what's going to happen?
We say, you're next.
There's a bit during the ritual of the Knights Templar where you have to sign your name on something, and you're standing there dressed in whatever. Someone pulls a knife out and says, what arm will you want the blood taken from for you to sign? And it's obviously not going to happen until my old mate Peter Elliott told us all to do this. So the bloke stood there, which arm will you have drawn the blood? And he looked at everybody, and we're all doing that. And then was the bridge too far? Right. We sent all things off to people who are going to be initiated. Asked what their blood group was. What a terrible fucking trouble.
But the thing is, I think what I loved about it was that there's no colour, there's no religion, there's no you can be rich, middle class, or poor. You're all the same. Right?
But there's a religion
if
you go beyond. If you go beyond the fourth degree, you have to be a Christian.
Right.
That's it.
Right. I thought it was good though, Jim. I enjoyed doing it, but
I think you have to believe in a supreme being, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, the wife.
Yeah, is that what you call her?
Yeah,
supreme being.
Yeah, now she calls me ATM, and I call her every morning.
And in your career, there must be a joke which is your joke of all jokes.
Yeah.
Would you share it with us? Because we're going to wrap this up now, but I just think we've got to end it on a high. So I think if you've got one of your...
I'll tell you the joke. So a man goes to the doctors. All jokes start with a man going to the doctors, or a man walks into a pub. And then the joke gets set up. And then the joke sort of stops, and the man goes off, and then comes back to deliver the tag. And this is a typical English joke. So he said, "Doctor, I've got a terrible stutter." He said, "A stutter?" Yes. He said, "Well, get undressed." He said, What for? He said, "I want to examine you to see what's causing the stutter." He said, "If me fucking get undressed." He went, "My God, that's the biggest penis I've ever seen on a human male." He said, "It's a fucking Brahma, isn't it?" He said, "There's your problem. The weight of that huge penis is pulling your clacker-lacker out of shape." He said, me clack. He said, "The thing that hangs down that separates the meat from the gravy, the punch bag, pulled out of shape, calling you to stutter me for fucking clack." He said, "You've got to have that off." "Have me clack. No, have that huge penis removed and a small, manageable penis put on." Is that possible? Yes, we can do wonders. End of first part of the joke. 3 months later, man walks back in. "Doctor, what can I say? Thank you very much. You've made it. My life has changed completely. Who'd have thought that the penis, this huge penis, was causing the clacker-lacker to be pulled out of shape? Now with this small, manageable penis, life is great." The wife's not too thrilled with the small, manageable penis and wonders if the process can be reversed. And the doctor said, no, a deal is a fucking deal. Okay. There you go. Have a freebie on me.
That's a good one, Jim. That's a good one. Jim, I've really enjoyed today, mate. It's been really
Tell all
good
your
fun.
people sign up to Yewtree. I can do with the money.
Listen, anybody that's watching this, that's enjoyed this, which I'm sure it'll be everybody, make sure you go to Ustream. We're going to put some links down below. There's going to be a link to Jim's Ustream platform, and there's also going to be a link to his charity. So if you want to donate, helps the soldiers.
Thanks, Tel.
And Jim, honestly, it's been a pleasure having you on, mate.
Great,
thank you so much.
I'm a big fan of your film work.
Oh, thank you, brother. Thank you.
Good. Not sure about the syrup.
Yeah, I know the syrup's dodgy. Thanks so much for tuning into the Criminal Connection podcast. Jim Davidson, what a legend, what a great guest. Now, most of you watching this, over 80% of you aren't subscribing. So do me a favour and press that subscribe button, because we need your help to grow our channel so we can get legendary guests like Jim Davidson on this show. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you on the other side.